Welcome back to Let's Play Higurashi Himatsubushi. That was a considerable amount of time to load up there. Which makes me wonder if now, it's like, last time it didn't happen, but wondering now, it's like, oh yes. It'll be like, that file looks suspicious because not many people have used it, so I must remove it. And I'll be like, no, god damn it. We barely made any progress with the plot, but let's continue. Recording the day after because, well, I only recorded one part, didn't I? But also did some recording for Final Fantasy X in the early hours of the morning, so that's taken up quite a bit of space until I edit it. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass doing the recording with that, so let's have a look through my notes. Well, not notes, my dictionary for the word of the day. Tani, simply an adjective. Why not? Do you remember, Yuki, this picture of the sea? Is where I first proposed to you. That brief moment before you nodded back. You probably wouldn't know just how much it seemed like an eternity to me. Yes, I would have never thought that amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had to wait for you to propose to me, it was. Ha 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 ha! From the moment I met you until today, compared to the time I've spent since I was born, it might only be a brief period, but they were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserve to be called an eternity. That time continues even now. From now on, I wonder if it'll be a boy. Maybe a girl. Either one is fine. Boy or girl, either way it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Amaro. Are they speaking or what? I don't bloody know. If it's a girl, we'll put the Yuki from my name in hers. Thinking about names is so fun that in the end we still haven't decided yet. I guess it's a flashback, so... But still, this whole freaking arc is gonna be more of a freaking flashback than anything else. There's still time to puzzle over it. Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yuki, there's something I have to apologize for today. It's my job. Sorry, it looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for the delivery. It's fine, you have a very important job. What you do protects the way we live and stuff. Compared to you, it's nothing. Please go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, sorry. My voice acting's pretty shit. Please don't apologize. If you feel guilty about it, then you can just atone. You can atone by trying to improve your voice acting, but that's impossible! If I atone that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. It's a joke. Now, go on. Piss off. As I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. It was Yuki's father. In other words, my father-in-law. Now we finally get speech marks? Father, I didn't want to intrude, so I waited in the hall. My voice is stupid. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I had. Go. Yuki is that kind of girl. No matter what happens, she doesn't want to hold you back. I force Yuki to give up on so many things. To put her through this steering job with such an important time in her life. Ashamed. Really feel that way when you're done with your work. Make some time for Yuki. She'll be happier with that than you, passing your work off on someone else. Thank you. I know full well you do important work. Be proud in what you do. Yuki is looking forward to your triumphant return. Yes. It's like, if it's an established character that I've already given a specific type of voice to, it's easy. But when it's just characters like that I haven't given a voice to yet, it's harder to voice act them, because I'm just like, I have no idea how to voice them. I jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Compared to the time when I first got here, the numbers on the fare meter had grown considerably. It seemed the modest time Yuki and I had spent together wasn't so modest from the objective point of view. Sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead. No worries. Well then, off we go and stuff. The taxi jerked as it charged gears to accelerate. Soon, bearing hospital, my wife was in behind the frog of it. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, and on top of that, one who's off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gillering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. This was the first time, though, that I experienced everybody gathering together like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. Perhaps a novel, in fact. Right when my wife was ready to give birth. If I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes, I'd be here all day. Even the verdant ginkgo trees lining the street that always brighten my mood seemed to lack some of their usual luster. Eventually the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was doing was important, necessary, and difficult. I composed myself and sharpened my wits. Ready. The taxi stopped in front of the building. Himatsubushi, Tokyo Metropolis Police Department Public Safety Division. Probably pronounced that wrong. Chief, everyone's here. Akasaka-kun, could you close the blinds? The blinds were usually closed when they needed to use the projector or if the discussion was going to contain some particularly disturbing content. The blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior of the room. Immediately, the inside of the room was completely drained of the pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind only the cold illumination of the fluorescent lighting. After the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. With everybody on the edge of their seats, the chief stood up solemnly and began to give his report. Approximately 48 hours ago, Minister of Construction's grandson, who is also the son of one of his staff leaders, is believed to have been kidnapped. It is believed the minister, in an effort to resolve matters amicably, chose not to report the situation to the police and plans to cede to the demands imposed upon him. You know, in the previous part I had put in the description that this case was technically brought up in Higurashi or Tanagashi, but I'm also thinking it might have also been brought up in Higurashi as well. I do remember it again brought up at least once in one of the previous arcs, this case. It was kind of like, it didn't go into detail. One of the characters, it was either Mion or Shion. Probably Shion, I can't quite remember. Just like, casually just put in, it's like, oh, and there was even a kidnapping at one point. Just like, oh, what? But they didn't really go into detail on that one, did they? This is the one I will go into detail about that one. It seemed that approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson and those of his senior staff members were kidnapped. The reason why it was phrased that way was because the person in question didn't admit it had happened. Based on the results of surveillance conducted on the minister's residence, multiple suspicious phone calls from what is believed to be outside the city took place. The abducted child is said to be under treatment for some illness, but there's no trace of any hospital records or witnesses to such effects. Due to that and various other reasons, we believe without a doubt that a kidnapping has occurred. Here they omitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that meant that before this incident happened, the minister's residence had been under surveillance already. I would use the word spy upon. Of course, there wouldn't have been court approval for this, and it would have been very hard to explain to ordinary citizens. However, it was quite an effective method to catch wind of incidents like this before they got worse. I'd like for you to understand that dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division. Why is he just following the demands instead of reporting this to the police? The fact that a minister can't even trust the police, what is the world coming to? Seems the group of perpetrators demonstrate that they have quite a high level of surveillance on the minister themselves when they conducted the kidnappings. Enough to give the minister pause before calling the police. We'll find out right away if you call the cops, more or less. So it's possible that there's a mole close to the minister. We all have the same voice, because I don't know who's bloody talking. It's obviously a room filled with people, but they don't have significance important. They're not as significantly important enough to get their own portraits. So I can't tell who is who, really. So they all got the same default voice. Several of the higher-ranking members who seem to have experience with this kind of thing let out deep sighs. The goals of the perpetrators, their demands as well as this entire incident are as of yet unclear. But in any case, the possibility that this may grow to threaten national interests is extremely high. If their goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain, that would have been nice. However, if this was some politically motivated shake-up, things would get a lot more complicated. Since we're not receiving any cooperation from the victim, that means that we're not privy to any of the details of the threats or demands. Due to the fact we believe there may be a mole involved in this incident, this investigation is highly classified. Only the people in this room ought to know of this. Furthermore, as this case is our utmost priority, we'll be placing a hold on everybody's noble duties. Understood. After that, the supervisor continued on tactfully explaining our course of action. If this incident were to become public, it was possible that the minister's political life would be over. I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support in the Diet would decline, followed by a no-confidence vote and snap election. And it might even expand communist influences. In other words, we wanted to handle this delicately. Akasaka and Sayaki monitor communications from the minister and the child's residence 24/7. Find out what the minister is doing. Report anything that happens. The remaining members investigate whatever is relating to the case and assigned to your units. Focus your line of investigation on the copies, reds, and convicts. Don't discount the possibility of foreign involvement either. I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This, however, is the first time I've seen things get so hectic. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. I didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation. Uncover that. As for Akasaka, that's cool. I snapped back to alertness upon hearing my name called. Yes! You investigate the environmental groups that have petitioned the minister. Among them, there's that group protesting the Hinamizawa Dam project that made the papers. Make sure you investigate them thoroughly. I doubt this is the act of some citizen group, but we have to eliminate every possibility we can. Understood, so those opposed to the Hinamizawa Dam. It's probably best if you go to the location personally. Get some information from the local authorities. They're a fairly radical organization, so the Public Safety Division there should have them marked as well. Understood. I'll head over there. Your wife, she's almost ready to give birth, isn't she? I apologize for the timing of all this, but I'm counting on your cooperation. We can't take our time with this, so we just have to brute force it with our boots up to the ground. Yeah, I know. My wife hates to interfere with my work with her own circumstances anyways. Sorry and thanks. Oh then, as for Kawasaki-kun and Saki-kun, to help support your blah-de-blah. I didn't want to take a business trip when my wife was about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment, though, that would be different. Even so, I knew the work I was doing was important and fully understood that I was in no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up to my wife for having to be away at such an important time. My wife, Yuki, would probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she could hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, at least wished she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yuki. I don't mind if you always complain to our child that their father couldn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. The next day, I took the bullet train to Nagano. From there, transferred to the train to Blah Prefecture. We don't know what prefecture Hinamizawa is in. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. I mean, imagine if they had that information in the anime adaptation or something. Would they be like, would they censor out when they say the prefecture? It's like, in a prefecture. Because that'd be a bit odd, wouldn't it? But I don't think they did that in the anime. I don't know, I haven't seen it in years. If I was traveling by air in that amount of time, I could probably get as far as Hong Kong. Did I read the previous line in my destination by land? Took several hours. Blah Prefecture was by no means close. So that we know, Hinamizawa is quite the ways out from Tokyo. I never sat in first class except for work, but whenever I did, the seats seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read yesterday. You know, it makes me wonder, is Hinamizawa in the north or the south of Japan? I'm assuming possibly north, I don't know. The group under investigation, the Onagafushi Defense Alliance. They were a group of residents opposed to the development proposed under the Hinamizawa Dam project. The local protests were quite heated and were getting more radicalized. Even limited to what was written in the newspapers, there were bloodshed that occurred during a clash with riot police, interfering with the dam construction, to many accounts. The number of petitions, sit-ins, and direct appeals to the relevant organizations were As an extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Ministry of Construction the other day. This was the reason why we were investigating this group in the first place. The land that they lived on was going to be submerged, so it was no wonder they would go into a frenzy over it. Even given that, though, could they really be capable of doing something like kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson in order to halt the project? From my take on it, I had serious doubts. This kidnapping plot was extremely sophisticated and complicated, enough that it was believed there was some political backing. This wasn't something that could be pulled off by some group of local protesters. Well, just like the chief said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I'm in the blah police's references room, taking my time investigating, the higher-ups in Tokyo would probably solve the case. That my involvement in done. Even if that were true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo while my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. There was really nothing that I could do. Ding dong! The announcement that we would be arriving at our destination soon snapped me back to wakefulness. Kogura Blah Prefecture, Prefectural Public Safety Division. The Onagafushi Defense Alliance. Yeah, they've been quite active around here. Wait, did we just get, like, I don't know, what? It just said the location, but not the prefecture. That just confused me. Are we getting closer to finding out where Hinamizawa is in Japan? I mean, it's a fictional village based on a real village. And by that I mean based on in that, like, it's It's not like an actual true event happened there. Just the location was used for the background. The actual public safety department already had the documents and a cup of tea ready and waiting for me. The short of it is there's a group of residents opposed to the dam. Really, it's probably better to say that every resident living on the land that's going to be submerged is rising to action, though. Like the old saying, fight to the last. They're determined and well-prepared ones. It'd be nice if they draw the line as just being a moderate residential organization. Snack of papers they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin. First, they were pretty much your average citizen's initiative, but ever since that incident with the riot police, they've really started to heat up. Now they've got a violent mentality on top of growing increasingly radical. Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regards to the democratic process. Breaking that down, many of those organizations held extremely left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that a citizens group would end up going this far. Radical citizens movements happen occasionally. It seemed, however, that this group was nothing as trifling as that. It seemed that I would have to reconsider exactly what the Akasaka Defense Alliance was. The Defense Alliance's demand, in other words, the withdrawal of the dam project. How far would they go to have that demand met? The kidnapping of the minister's grandson was classified. That meant, of course, I couldn't tell the Blah Prefectural Department about it either. As you know, there were arrests after last week's confrontation with Minister Inagai. There's enough reason to believe they could use the legal means to assert their demands. I skimmed over the list of the criminal records related to the Akasaka Defense Alliance recorded in the documents. The contents were all violent, not giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law. Could you give me a basic rundown of the types of illegal activities the Akasaka Defense Alliance are engaging in? The chief opened up a manila envelope, fished out several unorganized sheets, and spread them out on the desk. Seems that raids on the construction site are the most common. At first they were committing relatively petty crimes like cutting power cords, jamming locks, and breaking office windows by throwing rocks. Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, and distribution of pamphlets, lively but demographic forms of protests. However, then the demonstrators and police clashed, which started a riot, leading to numerous injuries and arrests. It was from then on that the Akasaka Defense Alliance, like their name implies, began to take a more demonish form of resistance. Demonish, you say? The raids were... if the raids were frequent, didn't the local police up their patrols? Well, of course they were on full alert, but they were up against locals, you know. There wasn't much the police could do if they were sneaking around under the cover of darkness. You might as well label the entire map of Hinamizawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, the locals would just show them exactly how easy it was to sneak around. Actually, it was after the police upped security that the protests started getting ever more extreme, as though they were being provoked. See here, can you tell how things started to heat up? An office set on fire, destruction of heavy construction equipment. Destruction? They couldn't have used explosives. No way, you see, they crammed the gas tanks full of sugar cubes. They do that, it fouls the engines. Even in Japan, it seemed there had been people doing that to the vehicles of occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, it was extremely violent and aggressive. After being toyed around with to that extent, local police have completely lost face. I can't tell which one of them's speaking, because neither of them have a freaking portrait, goddammit. The arson was a bit much. After that, the local police drastically increased the number of held that they had stationed there around the clock. The raids on the construction site quieted down a bit after that. He used the words quieted down, but that was still smack dab in the middle of the list of crimes. See, after that day, after they found that attacking the site had become difficult, they started resorting to personal attacks. The first people targeted were the construction workers. Well, we've heard of that, haven't we? After that, there was silence. What was being described to me was a guerrilla war fought in the jungle. Threats and violence were against the workers. Harsh words and harsher rocks were thrown. There's quite a list of accusations here, but there's not a whole lot of convictions. Well, that was probably Akasaka then. Of course not. First of all, there's no witnesses. On top of that, even if we identify the perpetrators, they have alibis coming out of the woodwork. What do you mean by that? Take for example, you're walking around Hinamizawa when a certain man stabs you with a knife. You remember the person clearly and even know his name and address. However, the knife doesn't have any fingerprints on it, and there's no other physical evidence. Well, you'd think this would be a run-of-the-mill case of assault, wouldn't you? In Hinamizawa, though, it's a perfect crime. Everybody is, the entire village, they're all in on it. To protect the man who is the perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and prepare an alibi. To that end, they'll probably even forge some evidence. Now, I'm gonna plug the charger back in, because really running low as usual. So we'll probably have a faint bit of bzzz in the background if we can just freaking find the goddamn... They need to hit plugging stuff in, because it never plugs in straight away. If it's not within, range of sight, essentially. There's nothing they can do but put them on trial. On top of there not being any material evidence, though, people testify one after another to cover his side of the story. Any prosecutor would hesitate to file charges. I'm not sure about murder, but if it's something like opening a gash on somebody's head with a thrown rock, or leaving a bruise after hitting someone, even if you could single out the suspects, there's enough reasonable doubt to not convict. Every case is without a doubt perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it is, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. Soldiers were all extremely well informed about this, and so the malicious, vicious, and tenacious business continued. The victims kind of been okay with that, right? Couldn't they have filed for an appeal? Well, you see about that, everybody on the inquest committee didn't want to get involved with something so troublesome. They wouldn't stick their noses into anything related to Hinamizawa. The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event a prosecutor fails to get a conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. It's a system designed to assert the will of the people on the actions of expert prosecutors in the legal world. In this case, however, being composed of local residents has backfired. They don't want to get involved. Why is that? How do I explain this? You could say they're afraid. Since it's a little special. Nah. Special? Is it an outcast community? No, it's a little different from that. Well, just think of it as being them being afraid. It's a little hard to explain it just now. Oh, right, there's an easier way. Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as a list of members of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance. The power of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance, you see. I have got a new item in my inventory. You know what that means? Another card. I actually unlocked one already in the previous part, like literally right at the end. We'll go over those at the end of the recording. And is the fact that they count many people among their members who are influential in neighboring areas. Did you take a look at this? I looked. What I saw startled me. Prefectural and municipal assembly members, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce, an executive of a business association, a chirping bird, and an executive of a town council association and a PTA. Whatever, there were more than a few people with a lot of nerve, say, both locally and in the neighboring regions. Around here, you could pretty much expect your actions to be observed by those against the dam project. You said something in its support. Who knows how it'd work out to your disadvantage. In any case, every town in this area is being held by the throat by somebody from Hinamizawa. The list of Inquisition committee members is undisclosed, isn't it? There has to be some measure in place to make sure they avoid retribution, though. Well, it is undisclosed, so their privacy is assured, but the person in charge of that is from the Okmir Medical Office. In other words, a local. While you might expect some professional confidentiality, you can't know how everybody is connected. The people from Hinamizawa have a lot of tight bonds in that regard. When you consider the obligations and duties people have to the region, the web of information thereby formed is nothing to scoff at. It's not uncommon for housewives in the neighborhood to know which kid from which house is what grade in which school, what subjects they're good at, and what vegetables they hate, among other things. You see, there's a Yakuza organization here with strong ties to Hinamizawa and the surrounding area. It would seem that they're providing full support in these recent incidents. They seem to be proving most effective. Gangsters, siding together with the residents opposed to the construction of the dam. It's a little hard to see what their common interest is. It's not that difficult at all. You see, actually, one of the lieutenants in that gang is originally from Hinamizawa. He was adopted into a rather influential family in the village. Exactly what was this Hinamizawa? I thought it was some desolate rustic village. However, for some reason, they exerted a strong influence on the surrounding areas, and had a strong sense of unity. They would protect the village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. The chief had said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there. But somehow I got the feeling that they were afraid of the village itself. It was something clearly different from what I had read in the documents in Tokyo. This was no simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling began to nestle itself at the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask my question. In other words, I directly asked what I wanted to know. Chief, this is just a hypothetical situation, but this Onagafuchi Defense Alliance, in order to halt the dam project, you think they could, say, threaten somebody important to accomplish that? Chief replied immediately. It's possible. Truth be told, I've already gone to municipal and prefectural offices. So, as well as local offices of the Ministry of Construction, and done things that could be construed as intimidation. Several of the workers' families have also reported that they're being followed around by some suspicious people. Well, that would make sense. About progress on the dam, they raided the construction site, destroying heavy machinery and lighting construction workers on fire. They didn't have any qualms about doing that. Threats of violence against people related to the dam would probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hoodlum would use threats and violence. At this time, it was kidnapping the minister's grandson, an abnormally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender to the demands immediately. There was no way this was the work of amateurs. Did those people have the power to enact this large of a crime? That was the heart of it. Was the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question once again, I chose the most basic method. Again, hypothetically, do you think they could kidnap a relative of someone of political importance? There's no way they could pull off something that big. That was the answer I most hoped for. If it was that answer, my work was as good as halfway done. I might be able to get back in time for my wife to give birth. That was how it was supposed to be. The chief, without a hint of hesitation, replied, They just might. There's no telling how far they go. Sorry, Yuki. It seemed like my work wouldn't end so simply after all. Oh, Akasaka-kun. Good work. How is the information gathering at the Blob Prefectural office? It's coming along. It seems I'll be able to meet with their local public safety departments. So I'm planning on heading out that way. How's the investigation in Tokyo? The others are progressing along. The number of groups we have to investigate on campus. Time isn't really a luxury. There were no new developments at this time. No matter how suspicious the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance was, if they solved the case in Tokyo, my job was done. It looked like my wishful thinking would come to pass. Hanging up the phone, I let my gaze drift outside the window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings. Akasaka-san, a car you can borrow just returned. I'll take you to it, so follow me. Thank you. He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot to where a battered sedan was waiting for me. But the steering wheel kept drifting to the left was a little concerning, but it would be enough to get me around for a while.